Hey, what's up, guys? This is Kuya Paul, and you are listening to the Love and Other Metaphors podcast here on youtube.com/user/Val07. You can also find me at facebook.com/Kuya Paul Poetry, also at instagram.com/Kuya Paul Poetry. I hope everyone's doing really great. I am here in the middle of a California rainstorm, and I'm liking it. So I actually had to work all day. So I was at the cart most of the day today. It was great. I like the rain. I might have mentioned it once or twice before, but I actually do adore the rain. I might have mentioned it in one of my blogs back in the past that rain actually is very soothing. Perhaps even therapeutic to me. The kind of the ASMR type nature of rain and the drops of the murmur of the drops. Actually, hold on. I'm gonna open up the window and maybe you can hear some. Let me see. Oh, hear that? That's the sound of the city of Anaheim. But you can hear like the whooshing of the cars, maybe. And you can hear my car window. Yes, I am recording inside my car. But because I just got off of work, and this was probably the best place to actually have it, where I wouldn't get interrupted or kicked out of a store for, of course, like being there too late. Just right after my shift, and yeah, just recording. A lot of stuff's been going on with me personally. I'll probably get into that in a little bit. But yeah, catching up. I am here right now in this rainstorm, and just kind of chilling in my car. Yeah. Yeah, that's my podcast, guys. No, I'm just kidding. But yeah, no, just chilling in my car. I had a very interesting weekend. Past weekend and then entire week. Today, as I'm recording, it is Saturday. So, yeah, I've just been having a very good week. What has been going on? Well, it has been raining. And I just been going through a lot of stuff in terms of my art and such. I am actually going to be working on a performance with a very good friend of mine, my poetry mentor, actually, Lady Bosco. She's going to be doing a show very soon, April 20 of this year. And I had been asked to help out with the show. I think I'm going to be doing mostly tech stuff. I might actually have a short little speaking role within the play. It's going to be a live performance. It's a lot of it, as much as I remember, because she's actually redoing the show that she did last year, which is called Heartstorms. But she has recasted, and she is going to be redoing it once again, I believe at the Poetry Lounge venue, which is Greenway Theater, which is near Fairfax High School. So yeah, I'm really kind of looking forward to what will be going on with that. It's going to be a 6-week commitment to me, or for me, as well as everyone else part of that production. And then I believe it's a one night only show as well too. So I got roped into it. I didn't really get roped into it. I volunteered, but I'm really bad with numbers because I thought it was going to be the 20th of this month, but it's the 20th of next month. I was like, you know what? I said yes, and I'm actually really excited. I'm glad I actually committed to a much bigger project than I thought at first. So yeah, to me that was actually kind of exciting. A couple other things. What has been going on? You might have seen my Instagram. I've been taking pictures for a group called Phil Am Creative. It's a talent network of different creatives around the Southern California area and beyond, actually. It's actually almost nationwide now, maybe even worldwide. Just a group of Filipino and Filipino-American artists within the industry. So actors, producers, singer-songwriters, composers, directors, and everything else that you can think of basically within the industry, all creating a network and a community of people where more projects can be made within the Filipino community or by Filipino Americans or Filipinos or Filipino or American Filipinos. Sure, yeah. I'm an American Filipino personally. That's why I say it that way. But yeah, like there's different projects going on with them, and I have recently become um, one of the people that they've been using as a historian for uh, the group. They use the term historian. Um, I never really I've heard the term, but I didn't know it's basically just like you're just cataloging the events of a certain group and making sure that historically, in terms of media and content, that things are just being cataloged. It's a really fancy way of saying I take pictures at their events, and that's what I did this last week on Tuesday. On Tuesday, I actually went to CBS Studios. That was really fun. They had a diversity and inclusion event where a few different casting directors, production assistants, and the like. They got together to do kind of a Q&A for our community and to talk about different programs they have for in diversity and inclusion for the studios. A lot of it really focused, at least with this one, it focused a lot on encouraging the community at large to submit their work, submit their writings, and to take this opportunity for that studios have created, basically to see your arts get in front of producers, get in front of casting directors, and use this opportunity to leverage your success. They were very abundant in talking about how the opportunity is basically at hand. Just take on the opportunity and make sure that you don't miss the chance. And of course, it is very competitive, but at the same time, it's like being able to submit your work to a studio directly to CBS Studios. That's actually pretty cool. It was my first time actually at the Radford Studios location. It was fun. I loved it a lot. Got to be around different sets. Still kind of like, like how if you're an Angelino, a lot of times you're just kind of like, you see sets all the time. You see like things happening all around LA in terms of like movies or TV shows or things like that being made. So there is a possibility to get jaded. I'm still not. I still love going to those studios. I still love being on like to be able to like see the studios, but not from a like a studio tour cart. You know what I'm talking about? Like you go to Universal Studios tour, like you get to be on the different sets and get to see things that are happening, which is really great. What's nice is when you get to go and do that, and you're not on the studio tour, you're actually invited there to actually meet execs and things like that as well too. That's really cool. So I took the moment. I was invited as well as several others within our community to basically be a part of the inclusion event. Once again, I knew that they needed a photographer to catalog the events as a historian. So I went. I brought all my camera equipment with me. In fact, it's still in my car. I should take it out and start editing those photos. But it was fun. It was really great. I really enjoyed, once again, the moment. Got to meet those execs. They catered. We were actually at, I forget what the place is called, like CC's or whatever. It was a cafe that they use also for sets, but also for things that go on in terms of, like parties or galas. They use that area for the studio, and we got to actually be there. It was a catered event, just kind of finger food snacks, but it was really great. You can see a little bit more once again on my instagram.com/Kuya Paul Poetry, or at Kuya Paul Poetry, whatever you want to say. But yeah, a couple photos over there. I got to take a picture in front of this one of the sets of American Housewives. I got to see the kind of the outside of the studio and the waiting area for Entertainment Tonight. That was kind of cool. All these things in passing because I was really just there for the event, but it was really great. It's nice to be there. So yeah, I was having a lot of, oh man, you can hear it now. Look, let's try to open this window now. Man, this should be my podcast right there. Just like listen to the sounds. Or I don't want to move the mic. Let me see if I can do it from here. Listen to that, man. Just ambient sounds like freak. I'm almost getting tired just like listening to the rain. Anyway, so Radford Studios, we were there for about 2 hours. Got to take a lot of really great pictures, and got to hang out with the crew of Phil Creative. So it was really great. I think I talked about it a little bit before in my last podcast. Like, get in touch with your community. I talked about it in the context of kind of shared economy, a very socialist kind of idea. I'm not a socialist. I swear I'm not. But like, it's a very like the idea of developing through community is I think is very important. I've been part of Phil Creative for almost a year now. I really didn't know where I fit in because, of course, I'm not directly with the industry that people are talking about. I never went to school to be like a director or producer. I took one acting class when I was in college. I loved it. I didn't think I would be good at it. However, there have been some instances where I was able to do some acting actually with them. So it was kind of fun. And being a part of their group, being a part of their community with Film Creatives has very much taught me a lot in terms of what the community is looking for, what production and industry is looking for. And granted, being an Angelino at heart, like having grown up or kind of around Hollywood, I've always been really interested, and I'm still really interested. One of the reasons why I'm staying within that community is because I do want to learn more. I do want to actually try acting. I've done a lot of performance learnings, especially with my spoken word. I've learned a lot in terms of the performance aspect, definitely from people who have been in performance much longer than I have. Once again, shout outs to Lady B, shout outs to Bo Sia, who have been my poetry mentors and my spoken word mentors, because they taught me how to perform, not necessarily just as a spoken word artist, but they taught me stage, and I would even say maybe a little bit of screen techniques that as a poet that I would use, but in any kind of performance aspect I would definitely use, especially within acting. They taught me a lot about emotion and being able to kind of wield emotion when you're talking about a piece, to delve into aspects, stanzas, and I guess later on you can delve into like in terms of your script, a monologue or a dialogue, and delve into, well, what's going on in terms of the emotion. What kind of emotion should I be would be fit this particular scene. I do it a lot with my poetry, and I think now I'm starting to see it's like, whoa, I can use this in my performance aspect as well too. So going back into Phil Creative, I'm just so grateful to be a part of what's going on over there. Definitely shout outs to them. But yeah, that's kind of what I've been doing for the past few, maybe a little under a year. Just finding different outlets of performance, and I guess like kind of the metaphor or the thought that I have, especially for this podcast, is you never know where your performance will actually go. Like I met a lot of poets, met a lot of spoken word artists, and they tend to either side directly with their art and their poetry, which is great, and they are definitely defined by the work that they do within poetry, within their writings, and within the spoken word community. And then there's the other ones who are poets through performance. I think that's one of the things that I really vibed with when I talked to and when I learned from my two poetry mentors, and then some. There's more than that as well too that I've actually learned from, but definitely Lady B and Bosia. One of the things that they really taught me is performance in general, and I think the way that I am, the way that I see art in as a varietal. There's different ways that you can use your art. Even though you're taught one way, there are different ways to use it. One of the things that I really loved about my learnings within when I was becoming a writer through the CLI program, and if you don't know CLI, it stands for Community Literature Initiative. It's the way that I was able to publish my first book, the Love Manifesto, which you can find at World Stage worldstagepress.org, or you could also find it on Amazon. Just search for The Love Manifesto and Kuya Paul, and you'll be able to find it. But like, I think that's one of the things that I really vibed with was the fact that that performance and media could be varietal. One of the things that they taught in CLI was the idea of the transmedia narrative. Like, you can have a narrative, a story that you want to tell, but a lot of times you need more than one media to do it. So a lot of the learnings that I got from it, a lot of the gleanings that I was able to receive from it is the examples of, you could have a poem, and then the poem could be on a piece of paper, but then the poem could also be a spoken word piece. So you'd probably need another media, which is like a recording or a podcast. Then, well, perhaps you want to see it performed. So that's like, okay, so you go from like the audio recording, and then now you have the visual aspect, maybe within a YouTube channel or a YouTube video, or Vimeo or Vivo or whatever you want to use for your video, or even just putting it on your Facebook. Then you have then you have the narrative of, well, how, like, here's my poem, but how are other people reacting to the poem and the themes of the poem? Then you might have a social media aspect, a call and response, a Q&A, a segment where you can see how the poem's themes have affected other people, and that goes into even more YouTube videos, maybe recordings, maybe a social media campaign or a hashtag, and then so on and so forth. You have so many different mediums, but you're still telling the same story. And a lot of media actually does that right now too. So you'll have one medium. I think, really good example, like the comic industry right now, especially with like Marvel and DC. What they'll do is they will have of course the movie. Let's start with that, because that's the one that most people are usually seeing in terms of the mainstream. They'll see the movie, like let's say Black Panther. So with Black Panther, they'll have that. They'll have, of course, the trending things of Black Panther. So they'll have the cast and crew. They'll have all the other videos that go with the movie, in order to see the behind the scenes making of, and then different things that they do with the celebrities used, the actors and actresses, and everyone else that's used to create the movie. They'll have that. Then they'll also have, of course, on Marvel's side, because they're a comic company, they'll also have a Black Panther event. So then maybe they're releasing a new Black Panther storyline, which will be anywhere between maybe a 10, 20, 30 issue Black Panther syndicated week by week release of maybe a new Black Panther storyline of Wakanda or another villain, and that will specifically and strictly be within the printed Marvel comics. So again, you go from printed media to social media to video media. So many different transmedia narratives, and that's one thing that I really love about the direction that I want to take within the industry. I want to do more than one thing. I think a lot of me doing this podcast, and I hope this is what everyone is seeing as well in the podcast, is that yes, I'm a poet, but I also like to talk. And I at least heard from my close friends that do listen to my podcast, is that yeah, I have a very kind of radio tone, and there's a different personality that you get from me doing these podcasts that you won't get in terms of just seeing or reading my poetry. You glean a little bit from it from my live performances, which is great. But these weekly podcasts also kind of create this media narrative, this transmedia narrative of who I am as Kuya Paul. So you can start piecing those things together, and you can really find out who I am. So I've always liked that, because I can never just do one thing. I am a poet. I am a writer. But I feel like I'm also so much more than that. I can sing. I wouldn't necessarily call me a singer, but I can sing. I definitely like to talk. I like creating certain things like podcasts and videos and things like that as well too. And in creating all of these things, I feel like I'm giving you guys a very varietal story, and I hope that story is compelling and appealing to you, that you're willing to see more of it on a weekly basis. You're willing to see the special events, like when I release a poetry video or any other kind of video. You're able to come down live and see me perform in spoken word and poetry to get a little bit more of my own narrative of my story in my life. So once again, yeah, I hope that this is all definitely helping. in terms of seeing who I am, and it's made me who I'm becoming as an artist as well too. My encouragement is, if you're going into art, have an open mind for other medias. If your media is music, then definitely keep making your music. But then consider, it's like, well, consider you make music, but maybe people want to know a little bit more about you. Maybe do a Q&A video, or a little podcast, or maybe just go on Facebook Live and just do a Q&A or something. Maybe it's something different. Maybe you do music, but you also like to do it live. Consider live music, consider performances in that regard as well too. I don't know, like there's different things. Consider orchestrations, being able to put your music on other medias, and so on and so forth. Don't be compelled to deliver your personal art or your personal story in one way. Find other ways for people to delve into your story, like a podcast, like a Q&A talk, like a video, like trending on social medias, things like that. And when you're doing it, be very open to learning more aspects about your art, or even different other art forms. Like maybe you did video on your last music video, but you really like the video aspect, so maybe you want to go into narration or writing. And then again, with social media, maybe you were able to do you did social media a lot, so maybe you want to do stills photography on Instagram, more portraits of you. And I know, like, that kid, like, I already hear people just like Instagram, you just want to be like the selfie queens or whatever. I mean, whatever. If you do it, just do it. Just do it. If you take a lot of really good selfies, or maybe you just like you took a couple of really good headshots of yourself, or like of you and your band, or you playing music and you really liked it. Perhaps consider photography. Maybe that might be another wrinkle in the transmedia narrative that you call yourself. So I don't know, just be encouraged to know that there are other art forms out there. I mean, even for me, like I started with when I was doing art, when I first started really thinking, it's like maybe there's something different about me in terms of art. I actually started with a sketchbook and I started sketching, and I thought sketching was my thing. I was like, oh, I can do this. Maybe I can finally be like that artist, just like all my like friends and cousins and everyone else that like they can draw. And I got to a certain point, and it's like it just wasn't for me. I liked it, but it was kind of really hobbyist. Instead, I tried capturing. So I went to photography. Photography is a little bit more my gist. I like it. There still was something missing. So I started to I had a notebook, so I started writing, and words became one of my things. It's not the thing, but it's definitely one of my things. And poetry, I felt poetry, writing, blogging, just became a thing for me. And I was just like, oh, I really feel this part. So I kept at that part. But I still delve into the other things, especially photography. Every now and then sketching, but I don't sketch no more. But again, keep an open mind. There may be other art forms. And then when you do that, and I'll kind of end with this, like when you start stitching those things together, you can create a product, your personal product, your personal branding that no one else will have. So like I'm an artist. I'm a writer, but I also like to blog, and I also like photography. And then blending those things together could make something really unique. So kind of consider that, and being and as you start becoming genuinely you, as you start these different art forms, you start to stitch the person that you are and the person that you're becoming as well too. That's what's happened to me in terms of my art, and that's why and going back into my previous topic, that's why I really adore the things that I'm learning in film creative, because this is a different part of it. I was like, wow, I actually get to, after so many years of kind of more or less dreaming about it as like a little kid or like a young adult, I was like, man, like that kind of glam and glitz of Hollywood, it's like I actually can be a little bit a part of it. Like I can actually see how sets work. I can actually see how cameras work on set. I can see the methodology of actors, and how they get into that zone of their character, whether through method acting or any other ways. And I get to finally learn it. And it's cool. I don't know if it's fully me, but it's definitely something that I'm willing to learn more of. And in the end, that could definitely be part of my own brand, the own narrative that I talk about within my life. At the very least, it makes for a very good podcast, and it makes for a very good conversation. So that's me, Kuya Paul, and that is my metaphor for this podcast. Once again, you can find me on Facebook and Instagram at Kuya Paul. You can also find this podcast, if you're already listening to it, at youtube.com/user/Valor07, the Love and Other Metaphors podcast. But thank you once again for listening. Thank you once again for your support. If you're supporting at this time through my Patreon, hopefully I'll have the bumpers by this time that you saw in the beginning and the end of all of these videos, so that you can go ahead and show your supports in the continuation of this podcast and making this podcast and all the other things that I do on a weekly basis for you guys, for enjoyment and entertainment and for encouragement. All that in your supports onto my Patreon will definitely make these things better. So that's basically it. Once again, I'm Kuya Paul, and this is my metaphor. Take care. God bless.